Welcome in. It is week 14. I am super surprised that we are this far along and only 4 weeks left. So that's exciting.
Last week of the fantasy regular season.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that's already happening.
Crazy.
And another guest host again coming in with Steve Bonham. Strong-handed it out here to help me out. How's it going, Steve?
It's a tough job. Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, somebody has to be the other half of me because I am just too much for one show.
Somebody just has to keep you on track. That's all it is. It's just wrangle you in. That's the tricky part.
Always. Well, I mean, you saw how well the show went this past week with the three of us, with Steve and Neil, and of course me. That was a blast. I don't know what the problem was.
That was good. That was fine. We answered a bunch of questions, got the job done. We did this last Monday too, so we're in a rhythm now.
Yeah, we got a whole 3-show streak going on. Just it's gonna be a blast.
That's right. I'm like Christian Watson. I just keep scoring for no freaking reason.
He didn't even have to do anything, man. It's
never.
But he also has tied for the top speed with a really old guy, Deshaun Jackson.
That's the state of speed right now in the NFL. It's still Deshaun Jackson's world, and we're all just living in it.
I mean, if that's the case, Watson should be good for another 15 years. He's set. Don't even have to worry about him.
Sure. Let's go with that.
But again, it's week 14. That means we have 6 teams on bye. Absolutely hate it for you. Falcons, Bears, Packers, Colts, Saints, and the Commanders. I don't know if there's a whole lot of fantasy relevant players in there. I guess Fields and Montgomery.
Jonathan Taylor-ish.
Pittman-ish?
Michael Pittman-ish, if you can rely on that at all. None of the Falcons, the ones you would care about, are all hurt, or Drake London, who's just stuck in purgatory.
Dude can't catch a break or a ball.
Kamara? Olave?
I mean, yeah, those are more of your flex-looking area, I guess. I'm very curious to see how they do tonight. I'm expecting a decent game from Kamara, so that's a plus. But, yeah, Robinson, the past couple weeks have been pretty solid.
Yeah, otherwise, you're really living without anybody else. You can, like, all those.
Well, Christian Watson. You'll be without Christian Watson. Your touchdown machine's gone.
The touchdown streak is finally coming to an end.
The bye had to end it.
Had to. But all those guys still, like Watson, probably still Pittman. Watson, Pittman, Robinson,
McLaurin,
Gibson, Olave. Those are guys that you're all like in flex consideration anyway. Like they're borderline starting for your team as it is. So this week you just don't have to worry about it. Maybe it's a blessing instead of a curse.
Yeah,
like a reverse bipocalypse. It's like, oh, thank God, less choices this week. It's just more straightforward.
It's going to make it so much easier on you to actually pick, and hopefully the people that you have will put up decent numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, George Pickens burned me so hard this week. I'm super frustrated with that. I mean, Deontay Johnson still can't find the end zone.
Do you like my stat today?
Yeah,
I just posted out there.
It's so bananas that's. I mean, he again can't catch a break. I don't know if it's a targets or if it's. I mean, both of them are seeing okay targets, but they just aren't near them.
Well, they're getting volume. The Steelers' offense just isn't effective. Like they can't get into the red zone to score.
Yeah, it's definitely rough out there for sure. But we'll actually get into it this week, and we're starting off with quarterback because you're going to be losing 6 there, so you're already cutting the list way down.
I mean, really, you're losing 1, but yes. Technically 6.
Well, if you're the Jimmy Garoppolo owner, are you looking at Brock Purdy at all?
So sad.
I mean, that would be
not. I feel like there's got to be better choices.
It's just a name to throw out there because again, that's going to be their third quarterback. Everybody's floating out the speculation that Baker's going to end up there.
And even then, like Purdy would still start this week and probably next week while Mayfield learns the playbook. So,
and even then,
even if that happened, but we'll see.
It can't be that hard to give the ball to Christian McCaffrey or Debo or IU. I mean, there's too many options that you just have to be somewhat of a
Well,
functional
it's
quarterback.
learning the route tree. That's what it is. It's understanding the plays, like where your receivers are supposed to be. You can do basic stuff. I mean, you can go out there and play backyard football, but
Especially with them, and most likely win the rest of the season. Let's be honest.
You just have to develop your offense overall. So,
but all right. Well, so speaking of quarterbacks, we'll go into the guy again. Back to the well. He's still there. Saved my butt this week because I wrote him out. And it's Jared Goff, 29.6% rostered. It's again a great matchup. He gets to go against the Vikings. Vikings should be able to put up points, which means he's going to have to throw. And if he throws 2 touchdowns, he's going to put up 20 fantasy points. And that's what you want because he has all the weapons available to him. Week 10 versus Chicago, 14. Week 11 versus Giants, 6.5, not great. 12 versus the Bills, 17.6. This past week versus Jacksonville, 21.6. It's perfect. That was a great number for me. I think he's at quarterback 5 this week, which is a pretty good spot for him, and I'm excited. But yeah, that's definitely where I'm focusing when I'm looking at quarterback is Jared Goff, just because that team has kind of figured it out if Jamal Williams is a vulture of the touchdowns. And Swift has been a viable weapon this past week, as we saw. It seems to be getting healthy.
Yeah, we talked about Goff last week too, and also Jameson Williams. Like he played this past week. He didn't do a heck of a lot, but that was to be expected. He was going to be on a limited snap count, pitch count, whatever it is that you want to call it. But
did see a target.
Just adding another weapon, having another option out there. Like I said, it's just it gives him more flexibility, and then it makes the offense more dynamic as a whole. What was it? He saw opening 8 up snaps in the game, 11% of the snap share. So, I mean, in terms of target share, to see a target on 8 snaps, it's pretty good, right? I mean,
yeah, that's a good note.
8, you take that. That's pretty decent. But that's only going to go up. It's only going to get better. So, yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah, and like again, the Vikings aren't that great of a defense, but they are. I mean, I think both teams are going to be able to score. Surprisingly, the Lions have been shockingly good the past couple of weeks against the run. So if both Cousins and Goff are throwing, it's going to be interesting to see if that doesn't become another high-scoring game for him. But that's definitely the one I'm just looking at for sure. We talked about Purdy because I wanted to, and that's makes me nervous. So we'll get away from that.
Different situation, obviously, because going up against Buffalo. But what about the legend of Mike White? We mentioned him briefly last week too. As of right now, he is top 10 again this week. Yeah. So is that you're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo going out, right? Like if you were starting Jimmy Garoppolo, you were a streaming QB guy, you're desperate for a quarterback. You could do worse than Mike White.
Yeah. I mean, he's been he's throwing for over 300 yards a game so far. And if he can get a touchdown or two, it's going to set you up pretty nicely for a solid week fantasy wise. Right. It's just, man, against his Bills, I'm expecting a lot of Zonovan Knight again, or Bam Knight, as people. I mean, that's I guess his nickname. I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, but again, the Bam, it's fine. But he was very effective this past week in the dump offs and being used all over the field. He definitely showed to be the best back out there, which was pretty impressive. I'm excited for him. I think he was a good ad, but yeah, the fact that that's the weakness of the Bills is they kind of allow you to do that funnel run. And if you're able to move the ball, the issue will be scoring. And if he gets a touchdown and goes for over 300 yards, which he probably is going to have to do, as long as he doesn't turn it over, you'll be fine.
And then I'll throw another one out there too, just in case you're absolutely desperate. Mac Jones against Arizona. If you're looking for like a 1 week streamer deal, does he have top 10 upside? Absolutely not. But will he lose you the week? I don't think so. He had a 2 against Chicago. That was an anomaly. He's hit at least double digits every other week of the season. So
what about Ryan Tannehill? 8.8% rostered, gets the Jags this week. I mean, again, just a name that would, because of what is kind of going on, the fact that we're losing 6 quarterbacks, it's going to move them up a little bit. I guess
because it's Jacksonville, maybe. I think Treylon Burks being healthy would definitely make me say yes, but That's what worries me. What worries me in a game against Jacksonville, even though it's a division game and it's, wild and inconsistent anyway. But what worries me about playing Jacksonville is the same thing I talked about with, Christian Watson on the Thursday show with the Bears and Packers. Like, for all intents and purposes, Tennessee should just go up big early, be done, and then it's just a Derrick Henry show for basically the entire second half. They shouldn't have to throw the ball. Okay, whatever. Either way, it doesn't matter. The point is that he shouldn't have more than like 17 pass attempts in this game. So you're really hoping he throws a touchdown or two early. Otherwise, he's going to put up an 8.
Yeah, which, man, that Burks hit makes me nervous. I doubt he's going to be back this week. And
me too. I would be more comfortable with Mike White or Mac Jones.
Yeah. But again, just a name to throw out there, because if they do end up having to throw to Henry, because he is a viable weapon, that's what we want. We just want you to throw the ball to Henry to get those points for us and score the touchdown.
That's all you need.
All you need. But all right, quarterbacks are done. Let's get into running backs. And guess what? I mean, the names you've heard before, Warren, McKinnon, all them are still widely available, easily able to attain. But Donovan Knight still not rostered enough. Went from 0% though to 39.3 overnight. I'm expecting that number to continue to go up because I'm a betcha that Carter's going to be out again. He just looked so good. I mean, week 12 versus Chicago, granted, that was a very easy matchup, 13.3 fantasy points. But this past week versus the Vikings, 16.8 fantasy points. I mean, Mike White really is helping the running backs become very valuable for the Jets. And I think that Jets offense also helps them a lot too. But that's definitely where I'm looking for running back. Is there somebody you're interested in, or any names that you're kind of?
I'm going to go back to my preseason crush. Talk about James Cook. I mean,
love it.
We talked about him being the pass catching back in Buffalo and how valuable that could potentially be. And then all of a sudden, for no reason, he's leading the team in carries and getting goal line work. Like, what the hell was happening in that game? They went way out of left field there. But look, he's good. Last 2 games, the rushes aside, which was amazing, but 5 targets against Detroit, 6 targets against New England, and now they're playing the Jets this week. The last time they played the Jets, he had 4 targets, caught 2 of them for 18 yards. But still, I mean, he's been reliable in the passing game like we were hoping in the preseason, and he has somehow taken over the rushing duties from Devin Singletary too. So at this point, I can't start Singletary in any capacity and trust it other than hoping he falls into the end zone. But James Cook is getting consistent work. I mean, 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's been in the top 30. Right now, he's number 12 in PPR scoring. So I'm loving it.
Well, and I mean, we kind of touched on it, but because we do think that game is going to get out of control, Dontrell Hilliard is a name tag. Yeah, I could see as being a potential useful play. I think another name that we'll probably hear a lot of, but again, is still highly rostered in ESPN leagues, is Cam Akers. I really think that I don't trust that offense.
No.
So I'm throwing the name out there. Again, I don't think it's something that you want, but I am going to throw it out there that he did see he led. He had a majority of the snaps and looked okay with them.
But again, like we talked about this before, they came back, remember, from the trade deadline, and they said, okay, we're going to work this out. He's going to stay. We're going to work him back into the offense. And he had 5 carries against Tampa and then 6 carries against Arizona. And we're all like, all right, well, he's back, but it doesn't matter. He's not doing anything. Then he had 14 carries for 61 yards against New Orleans. Like, okay, so he's the one. Then the next week, he has 8 carries against Kansas City, and Kyron Williams is the guy who's the number 1 in the offense. Now, this past week, we all switched to Kyron Williams, and it's 17 carries for 60 yards for Akers. It's literally full-on committee, full-on hot hand. So you're playing with so much fire starting either one of those guys. I just don't want any part of it. I'm fine having the 15 on my bench because I'd rather not have the 2 in my starting lineup. So
that's how it's going to work out. You're always going to pick wrong.
Exactly.
But okay, well, another injury that popped up was Kenneth Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Are you interested in any Seattle back if Walker's out this week?
If Walker were to miss the game, I've said before, DJ Dallas is the guy that I would prefer out of that backfield, just because he can kind of do both if he needed to. He can run and catch, whereas everybody else is kind of just a one-trick pony. But I think there's a decent chance, at least, that Walker does actually end up playing this week, even if it is in a limited capacity. I would prefer that he sat out the week, got the rest in. But DJ Dallas would be, it would be a 1 week filler, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, I just hate injuries to feet. Like they're very hard to heal from.
Well, it's his ankle. So he's got a jammed ankle is what it's called. So it's not technically an ankle sprain. It's literally he jammed the joint.
Yeah, it looked like he broke something in his heel. So when he landed, I'm like, that looks so painful. Why did you do that? That looks very dumb. But
just the way that he froze up on the field there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess maybe if he ices it, I can't.
I would expect him to have like limited work in practice this week, and then maybe get in a Friday practice and go on like maybe a pitch count or something this weekend. But
we just saw what Josh Jacobs did, and that was everybody was so high on getting.
There's an interesting one: James Cook over Cordarrelle Patterson rest of season full PPR. I would say yes, because I don't want anyone on Atlanta's offense. Anybody.
And until they are
even though Patterson
eliminated,
has to be in the conversation every week for flex, like he just has to, because there's just such a devoid of talent in Atlanta that you have to consider him because he's got to do something. But yeah, James Cook for sure.
Well,
bigger upside, better offense. That's always what I'm betting on.
Yeah, for sure. But I have to pull up Patterson to see. Oh, Saints, Ravens, Cardinals, Bucks. It's the rest of the season. So you're not playing against the Saints. I doubt you're going to play him against Baltimore. The Cardinals have also been okay up front. I mean, and he is a pass catching back, so that helps.
Yeah, see, that's the weird thing is it's like I would
you're not
say
playing for at least 2 weeks.
I would say that he's the pass catching back, so they're going to chase points. That works to his advantage, right? But does it matter? I mean, like even as the pass catching back over the last 4 games, he has a total combined 8 targets, and he's the pass catching back. So it's like even when they're chasing points and not in these games, he's still not getting utilized. So I don't know. He's at least consistent. 10 for 52, 11 for 52, 11 for 60. You know exactly what you're getting when you put Cordarrelle Patterson in the lineup. But it's a 6 or he falls in the end zone and it's 12. That's it. That's really what you're looking at.
Also, Cook gets to go against Chicago in week 16. So that automatically puts him above.
Normally, I would say that he's the pass catching back and they're not going to have to throw it, so it doesn't matter. But if he's going to steal all the touches from Singletary, then sure, fire up James Cook. Why not?
All right. Well, we'll move into wide receivers. And again, it's names that you've heard. I still like Donovan Peoples-Jones. He looked pretty good with Watson. They just didn't have to do a whole lot. I mean, that defense did all the work for him, and they were just able to kind of go out there and fart around.
Remember that narrative in the preseason too, though, that like Watson and Peoples-Jones were hanging out all the time, and it was like his number 1 target all training camp. So
also good news. That's part of the reason I have him on my bench, ready to fire him up. And of course, this week I missed out on putting him in my lineup because I was answering stupid people start questions all morning.
Yeah.
But Darius Slayton again looked good, found the end zone. Nico Collins also found the end zone. And, of course, the guy that I am going to suggest you get, even though he's injured, Treylon Burks, 37.5% rostered. Man, even this past week, getting knocked out. Getting knocked out. He had 1 catch. He caught it, or 1 target. He caught it for 25 yards and a touchdown. And that was the only play. But it was, 9.5 points. That's what he got on 1 play. And that's
right.
That's all you're asking for. And it's a great, I think, awesome matchups for him the rest of the way. I wouldn't expect to have him this week, but I'm okay holding him because if you're looking for playoffs, which you should be at this point, or if you're just trying to win this week, not the guy you want. Looking towards playoffs, definitely the guy you want. I love the target share that he's getting. He's clearly seems to be the one there, and it's just difficult for me to go anywhere else outside of him that you could trust for another wide receiver that could easily be a flex option for you. And I mean, I think this week he was wide receiver third, or over the past 4 weeks, he's wide receiver 34. I think it's what it was. But so that's definitely my pick. But again, those are all guys that we've been talking about all season and should already have. And of course, Jameson Williams, another great one. You saw what he could. The fact that he just got a target was awesome. I'm excited for him, but we'll see.
That was my upside guy last week. So yeah, definitely with you there.
Well, outside of Watson, I mean,
you brought it up too. Like this is the craziest thing. Like people have been coming at me on Twitter all day about Christian Watson. Like, why won't I change my perspective on Watson? He's looked so amazing. He's been spectacular. He's elite. He's a stud. Christian Watson over the last 4 games has 15 catches on 26 targets for 313 yards. Okay. Darius Slayton over the last 4 games has 17 catches on 28 targets for 334 yards. It's literally the exact same production, except one of those guys has fallen in the end zone 8 times and one of them has fallen in the end zone once.
Yeah.
That's the difference. The difference between Christian Watson and Darius Slayton is 7 freaking touchdowns. And if you want to bet that can just keep happening over and over again, and that's the production you're looking for, by all means, you go right ahead. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, it's definitely risky.
Darius Slayton rest of season is ranked like wide receiver 59 in the ECR, and Christian Watson's like top 30. So good luck.
Yeah, so if you're taking a home run, would you rather have Williams or Watson?
Right. Williams, 100%.
Mostly because that defense is so much worse.
Yes. And how about 10 targets last week, by the way, for Nico?
Oh, yeah.
In the losing effort. But
you know,
Brandon Cooks wasn't playing.
Keep seeing it.
So, but I mean, he's been the target leader even when Cooks has played. So.
Yeah, I feel like I've been talking about him since like week 6.
A long time. You've been on Nico Collins before anybody else. But I'm just curious now what happens. Like, that's one of the big things for me in the offseason, looking ahead, because it's the time of the year when you kind of have to, where Nico Collins has already taken over as the number 1 in that offense. They're going to have a new starting quarterback. We don't know who, if they're going to try to trade for somebody, if they're going to go after somebody like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold in free agency and try to go the super cheap route, or if they're going to draft somebody with one of their 2 top 10 picks right now.
Well, why don't they just pick up Baker now? I don't see what the problem is.
Well, because they're trying to get a worse pick. Although, you know what? Why don't they just get Baker now? Then that'll help anyway.
Instead of shipping it off during the
right, exactly,
draft process.
But then Brandon Cooks has already made it clear he doesn't want to come back. So where does he end up next offseason? And then you've got Nico Collins as your 1. Who's the 2? Do they use one of those picks to get more line help, which they need? Or instead of a quarterback, do they go offensive line and wide receiver and just go skill guys in the top 10? So I'm going to be very curious to see what the Texans do in the offseason.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they need to more focus on working on their O-line, or their defense. But that's me as a guy who just loves the Chargers and the fact that
they're one of those teams that just has too many holes to fill.
Yeah, you don't
so
know
it's like one draft isn't going to be enough to do it.
Unless they just load up on picks. But then, I mean, you can't get a whole lot for Brandon Cooks.
They're already pretty loaded on picks, and it's a good draft class to be loaded up on picks. But
get it all. Let's see if this get them from
Still too many holes to fill.
Is it 2-6 and what is the record? 2-6-2.
The Texans right now?
Yeah.
Aren't they 1-10-1?
Okay.
Am I right? Pretty sure.
The palindrome forever. Great.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to end up winning any games, but that's what you want in a wide receiver. That's why I like Nico so much.
They're 1-10-1. Yeah. Trying to secure that number 1 pick.
Well, they're definitely leading the pack.
They're
So
on the way.
that
They're on
helps
the
them
way.
out. But we'll go into your favorite position here and move on to tight end. And
Ooh.
again, names that you've heard, Komet. Dulcich is so frustrating because you never know when to play him. That offense is so bad, but
Mhm.
Evan Ingram again, another random one. Foster Moreau again. But I'm going to throw it out there because I'm crazy, and it's the Cardinals, and it's Hunter Henry. I mean, the Cardinals continue to give it up to the tight end. I'm going to roll him out there, 26.1% rostered. Past 2 weeks, he's seen 5 targets, but one of them he caught a touchdown, went 3 for 5 for 63 yards and a touchdown. This past week, 2 for 5, 13 yards. So only 3.3 instead of the lovely, what, that'd be 15 points, 15.3 points that he had the week before. But over the past 2 weeks, tight end 10. So against the Cardinals, who love to just throw it out there for tight ends and allow them to score, this is a great opportunity for you. And like you said, Mac Jones is a good streamer because it's the Cardinals, and it could end up being in his favor to actually target Henry here.
Yeah, this is what we talk about consistently every week. Tight end is a wasteland. Doesn't matter. Don't waste too much fab on it. Just keep streaming it week in, week out. Since, what is it? Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz have not played since week 10, and they're still both in the top 5 this season for PPR tight end. That's how bad tight end is. It's just abysmal. There's nothing out there. It's gross. You don't want any of it. So do I want to stream a tight end? Well, I technically have to. So I don't know. Who do you even want on this list? Hunter Henry is the guy that you would want. I don't know. Conklin had 7 targets last week, but he only caught 2 of them for 9 yards. Like, he's the one guy who saw volume last week that's like widely available, but it still didn't matter. So I don't know. Who do you hope falls in the end zone? That's always.
I mean, I wish Hurst was on a good tick to start, but then he got injured and was out.
Your guy Bellinger, 5 targets, 5 catches for 24.
I'm telling you, man, they
love
him.
Philly, who's pretty light against the tight end. So
that's a good one. Now that I was nervous this past week to throw him out there,
take
but
a swing on it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna end up
volume.
starting Daniel Jones in every league basically because I got Kyler and my backup was Jimmy G, and now he's gone. So I'm gonna go with DJ maybe, and then I have Lamar pretty much everywhere with Daniel Jones as the backup. So a lot of Daniel Jones for me in my lineup this week. So Bellinger, give me them TDs, baby.
Not going to do the, what is it? Shigozim
Don't even try it. Don't even try it.
The Tennessee tight end that went for the log bomb.
No, I'm not.
Not going to risk it. No. Noah Gray.
We talked about Ryan Tannehill, and I don't believe it. So definitely not going with his tight end.
But it's a target. I mean, if he actually has to throw, he has to throw it to somebody.
No thanks.
I wish it was Robert Woods, but man, that guy just can't seem to get on the same page.
If Okonkwo was the one throwing passes, then I'd be interested. But no,
not so much as just the tight end for you. Okay.
No.
All right. So yeah, Hunter Henry's my pick. I like Bellinger's. That's a good one that I'm surprised I didn't have on my list, but again, I just assumed that everybody owns it like me.
It, automatically, you figured it was.
Yeah, I just figured it was there. So again, we'll move into defense. It's another pretty toss-up week. And somebody asked in the Discord about defenses, and I like to hold usually 2 through the playoffs because I'm able to rotate. You can usually find 2 good weeks. And so starting this week, the Chiefs have a pretty good schedule. They get the Broncos and then the Texans next week.
No, I would not drop George Pickens.
Yeah. Landon? Is that supposed to be London or is that actually
Drake London? I would think Drake London.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't.
No, I would not.
Granted, the targets aren't great, but the targets aren't great, but he's still the 6. I wish they would get him close. If they would do more closer to 10 targets to him and Johnson and split those out more evenly. And of course, Freiermuth continues to just eat everything because he's a beast. But yeah, again, so getting back to defenses, stay focused. 42.8% rostered. The Chiefs get the Broncos and Texans the next 2 weeks. Even this past week, God, it was so rough for them, but they went up against the Bengals, who put up decent numbers against them. But past 4 weeks, Jaguars, they put up 6, Chargers 8, Rams 13, and then the Bengals, they put up -2. It's their first bad week, and I think that against the Broncos, they're going to be able to fix that because the Broncos offense doesn't know what it's doing. Then they get the Texans, who also don't know what they're doing on offense. Surprisingly, Pierce ended up being okay this past week, which blew my mind because he looked like he had just lost everything the past 3 weeks beforehand. So good for him. But again, it's not something that I'm scared of. And if they're not able to score, which they shouldn't be able to because the Chiefs are just so dominant when it comes to their offense, that they'll be able to score easily and force the teams to throw against them. And that is usually when you get in trouble. So I really like the Chiefs this week, and next 2 weeks, honestly, and widely available. So is there a defense that you're interested in streaming, or are you just...
Here's an interesting one for you.
The thought experiment comes out.
So after being absolutely rotten ass terrible for a vast majority of the season, they were 2-7, and then the Las Vegas Raiders over the last 3 weeks on this bizarre 3-game winning streak have finished as defense 13, 12, and now 9. And you look at the rest of the way, they've got the Rams this week, the Patriots, the Steelers, and then in the fantasy championship, San Francisco, which looked a lot scarier with Jimmy G than it does now with whoever the hell is going to be under center by that point in week 17. So I don't know, like 1 week for sure against the Rams this week. Like that's a given. But even then, after that, you've got the Patriots, you've got the Steelers. They're not putting up massive points, but they're also good enough that if you want to carry a second defense, they're definitely in consideration for a start week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, God, I don't know. I feel like they should have had a worse week this past week, but
yeah,
the fact that
this was the one matchup they had left other than Kansas City in week 18, but that doesn't matter. But this is the one matchup against the Chargers where really they should have crapped the bed and been completely out of it and not even in consideration, and they're top 10 right now. So
Chargers gonna Charger.
Exactly.
They just, again, we need a competent medical staff or Tom Telesco to start working and getting us better backup linemen, because not protecting our quarterback, I'm going to bring it up again, but we need somebody to stretch the field, and we don't have that player anymore. Jalen Guyton went down early. Mike Williams is kind of that guy, but he, again, isn't somebody who's just going to break off the top of the defense. And so we have nobody to chuck it too deep. And just seeing like Mahomes, for example, throw it to MVS and have those long throws is something that is extremely infuriating for somebody who knows that Herbert can do that just as easily.
Right.
That they should have been negative this week, and it should not have been a close game. And yet here we are. Now they have to win out pretty much with a tough rest of the season. So
yeah, it's brutal.
How's it being a Bears fan over there, Steve?
I mean, pretty depressing, but at least we're not like the Rams. Like we're playing for our first round pick. You know what I mean? Like we lost to the Packers, but it's a game we really should have won, and we still get our top 5 pick. So if we just keep losing, I'm good with that because we get that top 5 pick to try to get offensive linemen and help us out.
Open up some more running lanes for Fields.
Right. Like you're the Broncos, you're going to have the number 2 pick. Oh no. Like, well, actually Seattle's going to have that pick. So
yeah, man, I don't know. That's another team they need to figure something out. I'm assuming it's coaching, but that's also not usually
it's all the above.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, but yeah.
Did we mention the Steelers too, by the way?
Well, that was last week, but I mean, we can bring them back up again. I am always a fan of the Steelers just because they do have a pretty decent defense.
They played Atlanta and they only put up 4 points, which isn't great. You don't love that, but
they only scored. They only allowed us 16 points.
I mean, they're playing Baltimore this week with the backup quarterback. After that, they've got Carolina and then Vegas and Baltimore again. So again, down the stretch,
and Ravens don't have Jackson, they've already ruled him out this week, I think, right?
Yeah, this week. Yeah.
Okay. So
he should be back in 2 weeks, but I believe it's Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, should be the guy there. And so if Steelers can get to him, that could be. I mean, you saw how much they struggled this past week, and
again,
so
it's division games are always wonky. Like they're very unpredictable because you have seen them twice a year forever, so you kind of know what their game plans are, and you can strategize against those teams better than the teams you see once every 3 years.
Yeah,
so it makes it a little more difficult to predict what's going to happen in those games, but even still, if you're desperate streaming for a defense, they've got enough talent and can take the ball away and can get sacks, and that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's why we told you to pick him up last week, even though it wasn't a great. I mean, like I said, if they could just have sacked him a couple times or done just enough to get a couple more points, it'd be just frustrating.
It is what it is.
Yeah. But I mean, where are they right now? 14, I think. Yeah, they're the 14th defense right now, and they only put up 4 fantasy points in my scoring format. So
yeah,
but we'll wrap it up. We'll be done with the wire, so you guys can go on and watch this ugly game that I'm assuming that even still, Mike Evans is going to end up struggling because he can't figure it out, and Brady can't figure it out, and they can't get on the same page, or they're having marital issues in the background with each other, because that's definitely an issue.
We'll go through these real quick. Thomas, yes, stick with Baltimore or Kansas City, I guess, if you want to do that.
Yeah, but let's see, because that would be this week and next week. So, like I said, yeah, I just said I like the Chiefs because of the fact that they get the Texans and the Broncos. So, could do worse.
Yeah. It would depend on who you'd have to drop if you're adding them, but yeah.
More of the issue is running into the fact that the Ravens offense is going to be run by Tyler Huntley this week.
Right.
If you can't keep the ball away from the other team, it's going to make
I think that's more of like a 10-9 finish, though. So I'm good with either defense in that game. I just don't want the offenses. And then
yes, always Seahawks D. That is always
Seahawks D or the Commanders D.
Oh. Let's see. Seahawks get. I feel like they had a pretty
Seahawks against the Panthers.
Oh.
Commanders are on the bye this week, so yeah, Seahawks for sure.
There we go. Makes it easy for us. It's the Seahawks. This week.
Rest of season, probably Seahawks anyway.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Pulling up the Commanders to get the Giants, 49ers, Browns, Dallas.
No, not dropping Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Too much talent.
Yeah, but even this well, I guess he was injured. I'm like, this past week I had him in my lineup, and I had planned to switch him for DBJ, and of course, he gets hurt.
He was on a snap count, and then he pulled the hammy, and he was out the rest of the game. So, because he was sick and dehydrated the whole week, and then you're like, oh, just go out there and go at full speed.
Do your thing.
And then he pulled something, of course, because
that's what they do.
Science.
Athletes.
All right,
they need a lot of water.
We'll wrap it. We'll get out of here.
All right, so we'll wrap it up. Be done with the wire. What is it? 14.
14.
We're almost done. We're almost done. We're getting so
Fantasy
close.
Regular season's over.
Yep.
I don't have to look at my terrible teams anymore, and then I'm just looking at my playoff teams that are all injured.
Woo! You start looking at your dynasty hopes and seeing if you can't get rid of some players.
Yeah, those are the ones
you
that
need
are
a stash. Hey, just remember, I drafted John Metchler.
Man, I got a team in an Empire League that I was like, man, I'm going to cash I won last year. I'm going to cash the Empire pot, feeling really good about it. Cooper Kupp hurt. I had Kyle Pitts, and he was terrible. I traded him right before the injury, but I got Kenneth Walker, who's hurt. That's the team that has Kyler, and Jimmy Garoppolo is the backup quarterback. So right now I've got Colt McCoy as my primary option if Kyler doesn't go. Yeah, that whole team just went sideways on me real fast.
And I feel like this has been a weird year that I just feel like more players have been hurt this year than in the past. But I don't think
it's more in general. I think it's just more notable.
Yeah, the main players. That's like
Dr. Squatch. Yes, it is.
He loves it. He loves
the
them
Rocket City Trash Pandas. That's right. Represent your minor league baseball franchises.
Well, speaking of, ours just got sold, so it'll be interesting to see what they end up changing if they change the name or if they keep it to from the Wind Surge. So
they tend to mix it up. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah, we'll end up saying, but we did it again.
Yep.
Hey,
always
if you
like
haven't
that.
already, holiday merch available, shop.importantnonsense.com. And if you want us to help you more regularly, join the Discord. Patreon.com/importantnonsense. Very easy. We'll have you hooked up. We'll gladly go through all this stuff with you, help you set your lineups, do all that good stuff every week. But, man, till next week, or actually until Thursday, if Steve ends up coming back again.
I don't know if people can handle that. I don't know. It might be too much. Might be
4
too much.
shows in a row would be just
Right.
a crazy,
Be a lot.
crazy amount of Steve. But
That's right.
until next week, remember, as always, to keep up the nonsense.